welcome to episode 4 of War Stories. Today we have a little bit of a different episode, but I think this is going to be a great episode. Today we are at the Confederate Memorial Park in Marbury, Alabama. And there wasn't any specific battle fought here, but there was a very interesting man, a Jefferson Falkner. And there was a Jefferson Falkner that was his dad, and then there was a Jefferson Falkner that was the son. In 1901, he realized that the veterans of the American Civil War, the Confederate side, they didn't really have a lot of benefits, no place to go. So he donated this piece of land. And on this piece of land, there was a hospital. There was like 9 or 10 cottages. There was a mess hall. There was all kind of places for the survivors and the veterans and their wives to come and have a place to live if they needed it. Now, that went on for a while, and around 1914 to 1960 or 16 or so, it had its peak. There was over 100 veterans and their spouses that were here. I think there was 9 or 10 spouses that lived here at the same time whose husbands had already passed. So there's 2 massive cemeteries on this property. We're going to visit both of these cemeteries. When we go into the cemetery, we're going to find Falkner's grave. We're going to talk a little bit about him, and if you can pick up on our other episode, we'll have some more from the graveyard. Around 1939, the home closed. There was really no...
There was 5 widows left, and they sent those to Montgomery.
Right. There was no one really here, just a few people that were left. And around 1964, so that kind of sat as is until 1964. And then the state kind of stepped in. They made this a terrific memorial. I mean, the grounds are beautiful here. So far, it's a lovely drive in.
Yes.
If you're down this way, guys, I encourage you to come visit this. But until you come visit it, enjoy this episode.
Okay.
This is a visitor center museum.
Right. This is the Welcoming Center. This is talking about the Alabama Confederate Soldiers' Home. Okay. It says this is the site of of Alabama's only Confederate home. 22 buildings once stood on this 102-acre site. See, that was the home.
Oh,
and that was some of the veterans. There's Jefferson, Manley, Falkner, top row, 6 from left, holding a straw hat. That's him.
That's him, and I have...
And that's Tucker and Tucker.
So there's some pretty interesting folks here. I think I have some clearer pictures than this that have already popped up on screen, I'm sure.
Right, yeah. Okay. All right, so we're going to do a little walk around the park here, see a few of the buildings or the sites where the buildings were. And this is Gracie, as you see right there. That's her little pet stroller that we got to put her in to walk with us because she's got anxiety problems. She has to be with us.
Yeah, I hope you guys don't mind. If she's not with us, she rips all her hair out and stuff, so
she's in her little stroller. So you'll hear her. And the first thing that I seen that was on that site was this log cabin. So this was the original site of this log cabin.
I love that they made it into a library. That's kind of cool. Confederate library.
So this is a library. And this is a steam locomotive bell. See the bell?
I was looking at that bell. I love those old bells like that.
That's a steam locomotive bell. So I guess we can ring it. No?
They probably made it so it doesn't make a noise.
Smart, right?
I would, yeah.
So people like me can't just go up and ring the bell?
You know, before we go any further, guys, too, I want to apologize. The museum, they didn't want us doing a video inside the museum. We have some pictures that we'll be using throughout the video. But I encourage you, come check the museum. There's some really cool Civil War history in there.
Yes. All right, we'll go this way. Over here, and we'll see what they have over here across the road here. Hey, here's our pedestrian track. Here's our road.
Oh, okay.
Because here's the well. I'll walk up down here and get this picture. Okay, and our first stop right down through here on this little map was a well. So this must be the original well to the site. Yeah.
Hey, and this is also a birding trail. How about that?
Oh,
But-
it is.
From some of the maps we looked at, it looked like the road this was the road.
See, and this is where we're going right here. All right. This is where we're at. And Cottage Road's going to be down here to the left. That's going to be where the cottages were. Down
Okay.
here to the left, around this little thing. And then the mess hall foundation is going to be over there to the right.
So, but like I suspected, you see those little like dotted boxes? So that represents houses that were here at one time.
Right, yes. Yes.
So, you know, all along this cleared path where little squirrels running. So all this right here had a lot of little homes in it.
These were cottages right here.
Right, yeah, like I said, it was just 9 cottages for people that didn't have a place to go.
So this was the cottage sites right here.
You know, and something about the U.S. Civil War that was kind of sad was the South accepted their fate. They accepted the fact. But there was such an impartiality on the war itself that is history on the war ever going to be really right? All we can do is tell the stories we know and hope someone, you know, years down the road can actually sew it together the way it really happened.
And it's always written from the perspective of the victor, so how do you know that it's the truth? You don't know.
Right.
It's always going to be from the winning side. That's all
Right.
you're going to see.
You know, because a lot of people want to, you know, there's a lot of issues that people want to argue about over what started the
I
war.
would go around the tree in the yard here.
And I think the same thing that started that Civil War is what's coming close into today's society, and that's state rights.
So right here is going to be the site where the miners' cottage, I mean, not the miners' cottage, I'm used to talk about miners, is where the cottages would be.
Yeah, I didn't see on the map where the hospital was, though.
The mess hall, it's probably, they might have had it just set up in the back of one of these buildings. You know, like a doctor's office. Let me get this. So right here's the side of where the miners, I keep saying that, where the soldiers were. Okay, it's the site of E.L. Moore, Fox Mall, Lizzie Cameron, the Blue and the Gray, Flowers, and Last Chance Cottages, 1902 to 1939. And here is a picture of the cottages, right here. And it says the individual cottages at the soldiers' home contrasted with the large barracks found at many other Civil War veterans' homes across the country in the early 1900s. They were put in cottages in a row, so each family had their own cottage. And they were lined up down through here through this road. I think they were treated better than we do our veterans now. Now, I think this is the foundation for the original mess hall. We're going to go right here and see it. And then we'll walk back and go around to the church and to the cemeteries and things like that.
Yeah, guys, and in future videos, if it's a walkway like this,
Yeah.
I'll have her strapped to my back.
Well, she made herself red just by sitting in the car the amount of time that she did. She's all scratched up and red. She's got.
Is this where you said we had to make a left?
No, it's right here. We're just going to the mess hall. And up through here, guys, this is where the old mess hall used to be. See how
Well, you know
big it
there was some good cooking coming out of here.
And they're right across the street from where the homes were, so you just had to cross the street to eat. And here's a picture of the mess hall, the way it used to sit.
Oh, I got my own chair.
And you can see where it used to sit there, right? It says that the veterans cooked for themselves in their cottages. Later, cooks were hired serving meals in one cottage of each row. Around 1920, the mess hall was constructed. providing the most efficient method of serving meals at the soldiers' home.
Wow, they fed them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, America, we need to be ashamed. Why do we have homeless soldiers out there?
Veterans, of
You know,
course,
exactly.
yes.
All these homeless veterans, and we got money to feed everybody that wants to come in, but that's a political stance we're not going to get on.
No. The soldiers that were here, the veterans that were here were veterans of all kinds of different skirmishes and battles, and they were from all over the United States. I mean, all over from the South, mainly. And they were fighting all over.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. There was people from Tennessee, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama.
And the people that came here didn't have homes to go back to, didn't have families. They were wounded or they were mentally so messed up, they couldn't function in society anymore. And it happens. PTSD with veterans.
It does.
Okay. This is a carbide tank, whatever that is.
Carbide was an element that you would use, like a little rock or something, but
It says
it's one of those things you add water to and you can make light.
It says the metal tank, installed roughly between the northern and southern roof cottages, was designed to hold a mixture of water and carbide rocks, which supplied gas for lighting and cooking before the advent of the electricity at the soldiers' home. See how it goes through? That's interesting. And that's what that is.
But that's what coal miners would do. They would take a little piece of carbide, they would put it in their light, they would put a drop of water on it, and that gas would then glow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they used to light themselves in the old mines to see. Now, it's not like it's a bright light. This is candle power type light.
The church is over there through the woods. We're going to head that way. It's going to be difficult to walk through with Gracie.
Yeah, I should throw her in the backpack probably.
Yeah. When we get out the next time, we will. She's already scratched up and red behind her ears and around her neck.
See it.
So she can't be left in the car. And we don't know what that's about. She's just got some kind of anxiety going on. Okay, guys, so I'm doing this one solo while he's in the Jeep with Gracie's going to get out the next one at the church. But right here, we're at the Mountain Creek Post Office. This post office was established in 1900. So let's go take a look at that. This was the post office that was established here at the soldiers' home. See that? And we're going to go take a look at that. It is absolutely beautiful. It really is. I don't know if we can get inside. I think they have it locked up, but we'll look inside like this. There we go. Get some pictures. It's very interesting looking in there. Going from this side. See if you can see back there. It looks like it has the slots for the mail. The little waiting area. And if you remember, the soldiers' homes were just right here. And the mess hall was just right over there. Get back off of this a little bit so you can see it better. It's very interesting. Old. They said it was built here in the 1900s. Exactly. The soldiers didn't have to go anywhere. They had a mess hall, a post office, a doctor's office, which we still ain't found, a church, a home. They were treated well here.
Yeah, looks like Mom is coming back. Now, no little community would be complete without a church. And fortunately, the Marbury Methodist Church was already here for everyone. 1885, this church went together. So it was about 16 years before the land was donated. So it was here at the time that they were using this for other things for the soldiers. Church is a very important part of a community like this, especially when you're going through an atrocity such as a war. It helps people find answers. It helps people with camaraderie, something that I think we're missing a little bit of today.
And it makes sense that they would have had a church here earlier because Falkner was a minister. The father was a minister all the way through the service, from what we found out. That all the way through his war service, he was a minister. So it makes sense to me that he would want to have a church built here because God is an essential part of their lives, and that's what gives them hope and helps them through everything. So this is the Marbury Methodist Church that was founded here. And we're going to take a walk around it. You can't get in it.
No, but I wanted to walk around it. I mean, this is some...
Yeah, they said when they moved it, they salvaged, it was 2 stories, and then they can only salvage 1 story of it when they moved it. And then this is the woven wire fence. Okay, so it says, this is the woven wire fence. Completed in 1904. This is one of only 3 remaining sections of the original woven wire fence at the soldiers' home. Okay, so this is it. Wow.
That's pretty awesome. Looks a lot stronger than that little welded wire stuff we get today.
It does, and it's still standing. So
200 years, yeah. 150 years.
This is inside the church. So we can see it here. See, there's a pew. See?
Oh, and they got the hymnals right in the chairs.
Yeah. Let me go over here and look. It's beautiful. It looks like an old style Methodist church.
It really does.
Let's see, get up here and see the pulpit, guys. I can't see it, but I think you guys can. Yeah. I'm too short to see in there. Isn't this beautiful? Look at the shades. The windows on the back side of the church. That's beautiful. I like that. See the shutters open up? So all around the church, you had this cross breeze going in all around the church and through the Sunday school. See? Beautiful. And that's smartly designed.
And to think this is just one of a little section.
Because it did have another story. See, and I think these are Sunday school rooms. Have to see me reach up your closet. Try to get the pulpit and stuff. There you go. It's beautiful. I love the old time churches. I see the grounds. This is the whole grounds.
This is what I keep, I know I keep going where I'm not saying anything for a minute, but I can't stop looking around. I'm telling you what, if you can get out here and check this out, folks,
yes,
you need to.
This is beautiful out here.
I understand why these people would enjoy their life here.
Right, exactly.
And I'm just so proud that Alabama stood up and they made a home for veterans. Let's do it again.
They had everything they needed here. They had a mess hall, post office, a church. They had a doctor's office. So really they had their own small town right here. And they didn't need outside influence. They didn't need anyone else. And they were protected and taken care of and actually paid back for their service and their sacrifice. This is the Army barracks for enlisted men and non-commissioned officers. It could hold 85 men per house, per barrack. And they were built after the 1863 barracks, the way they used to build them during that time. So the park redid them. And
so these are true to form.
These are true to form and design. And these are barracks. And I'm guessing the shorter ones like this would be like a couple of officers.
That's what I was wondering.
The longer ones would be the enlisted ones. Yeah, they would be.
I could see officers, maybe 1 or 2 officers or something.
Well, they would have the better barracks, more private barracks. I'm just trying to see if any of the doors are open or
greater the risk, greater the reward.
Well, everything's closed up. But yeah, you can see this would be the officers here and down there. And then the enlisted men would be right there in between. This is interesting.
It really is. I like these long barracks. I mean, I could just see a bunch of men here.
Right. And each one of those longhouses hold 85 men.
You know, again, this isn't like the actual site where these barracks were sitting. These are all recreations, and this is kind of recreated to look a little bit like a camp in a way.
Well, they said they would have set them here like this, though, because
Right.
it's like near the entrance.
But you know, I mean, I could see all these guys here, you know, getting themselves ready for whatever's
Yeah.
coming.
And they would
Probably-
have like a fire out here in the middle.
That's what I'm thinking.
They
There's
would have a
probably all
big
kind of
bonfire out here in
fires
the middle.
going with food cooking.
Food cooking, and men would be sitting around cleaning their rifles, going in and out of the barracks, just doing normal everyday activities you would do every single day.
Yeah, and this,
Just living their lives.
Yeah, now the food's going to be a little different.
Well, it depends.
'Cause-
some of those guys could cook. Not all men can cook.
Well,
though.
but I'm talking about the conditions, see, because
Yeah.
at a point in the war, supplies became scarce, and a lot of the guys were going out in the woods hunting.
Oh, yes, it was.
So the military at that time ate a lot of game.
Yeah.
And, you know, one thing Alabama has been blessed with is so much game.
And if you look at this, it's a longhouse, and this goes down through here. It's almost like the barracks they have now, except it's made. These are just wood barracks, you know. But I could see that how they would do this. Yeah. And all you see is benches and beds, cots. So you go in, and there's going to be cots to the right and cots to the left.
And they actually, here they do a like an actual tour.
And,
Where they'll go through and they'll give you all the details and every little number and statistic if that's what you like.
And they do reenactments here, he was saying, and they're going to be having, he said that they were going to be having men down here living in the barracks and doing reenactments here. Like you were living here during the war, during the Civil War. They were going to be doing that at the end of the month. And I'm guessing now
And
you guys
we will be begging them for the right to come and at least document some of it.
Okay,
for
here's
y'all.
our fire ring. And I'm thinking this is going to be your outhouses.
But you know, these bases were a little bit dangerous too in that time because, you know, from the last videos that we talked to, the second episode where we were kind of in the War of 1812, warfare was still being developed. You know, that was the time when two regiments actually and for real went line up to shoot, and it was essentially, you know, your best against my best, and whoever wins wins.
Yeah.
Or capture the flag, essentially. By the time the Civil War came around, warfare had developed. The native people in this land taught the European settlers what the true meaning of war was. Mm-hmm. War is not civil. And by this time, you know, you would have troops. You know, there may have been Union troops that would sneak in here and just like a guerrilla attack, they would bomb it at night. Mm-hmm. That wasn't as much. There was still the two fronts meeting on the battlefield like before, but this is the point where war is starting to really change. Mm-hmm. The war, I mean, by the time we're here, by the time, you know, we're here in history, the war itself is over. You know, 1864... is that when we said that church was built?
Yes. 1860.
So it was the year the war ended.
Yes.
They're putting that, or 20 years after, whatever it is. I'll edit or something. But anyway, that when that church was built was right at the end of the war. Mm-hmm. All of this was being worked on as something for the Confederate veterans of the war. Nothing was concrete yet, and that wouldn't come for another 20-some years down the road.
But I understand why they have the barracks here.
But the one thing that I'm wanting everyone to kind of notice is how warfare is developing, okay? There were some cannons that they created by the end of this war. And
What are cannons? You mean cannons like
I'm talking like cannons, but what they did is they built these massive large cannons and they essentially rifled it. Mm-hmm. So it shot like a giant bullet.
Oh, okay.
But the bullet would explode.
Oh.
So they really got into the massive warfare, and it was, you know, you could set the explosion by pressure, or technology was picking up. It was beyond the days of where they would have to stick it in the cannon and hope they shot it before the cannon went off.
I just had this feeling, and I don't know, like, I imagine sitting in these barracks and writing letters. That's what I just got a feeling of. Homesickness, lonesomeness, and I didn't get it till right here. But it's just, I got the image of writing letters. You know,
I could see that, though.
soldiers writing letters home. And sitting here on this porch and writing letters to our loved ones. You know, and you're staring across the yard at other soldiers. Some of them were wounded, some were sick, some of them were mentally just off now.
And some of the worst parts of war, especially in those days, is you would receive a letter from a loved one at war that they were telling you, oh, this is going on, but I'm still here.
Yes.
And then you would never hear from them again.
Right, and you
and
don't
there
know.
would be no record of what happened to them.
There's a lot that's unknown that's buried. We cover that in some of the videos. And then you have missing in action, right? And
Right.
sometimes their bodies are never found. So, I mean, but right here I just get a feeling of sadness, of melancholy. Like, they just sat here and wrote letters home. They miss their families. And I can understand that.
All right, on site there is about 300 or so soldiers and a few family members that are buried out here. This is cemetery number 2. And this is where Jefferson Manley Falkner is buried. Now, Jefferson Manley Falkner is the son of Jefferson Falkner. So we're gonna walk around in here, and his headstone is right here at the very front.
Okay.
But what I think we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of maybe walk around and look and see if we see any
All
other notable names, and then we're gonna come up here and we're gonna talk about
Oh, I see it.
Falkner.
So they put him right up here at the front, didn't
Well,
they?
he deserves to be.
Yeah. Oh, it's pretty up here. Confederate Cemetery number 2. Let's look at some of these. And these were all veterans.
1913.
Not
I mean, when you
213.
start looking
Age
at it-
78 years.
Yeah, when you start looking
Yeah.
at it in like 1913, 1940, I mean, this is just 100 years ago, essentially.
Right.
I mean,
It's not
this
that
is
far.
not that long ago, guys.
No.
We've got to remember, I mean, we are a fragile country.
Yes.
Very fragile.
Let's look at some of these. Peter Wyckoff Private Company. Alabama Infantry. October 9th, 1913. Callaway. Robertson. Wow. And see, that's from the Georgia Infantry. So they come from all over. And if you look around, guys, if we scan this, it's just stone after stone of veterans that served our country here.
I think every single headstone out here is soapstone.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It is.
I like how they do the soapstone because it's really pretty. Brown, Jefferson. Age 75 years. It's kind of the way they also do the nuns and the monks. I see that at those places too.
I mean, most of these people buried here, something to think about. Most of the people buried here had no clue that this was going to be their final resting place.
No, they didn't. They came here and retired and lived here at the veterans home because a lot of them didn't have anywhere else to go, or they couldn't get back home, or they had some kind of problem.
Well, you know, one of the things, I mean, medical science was very, very antiquated according to today's standards. And if someone's leg was shot off, that's it. It was just shot off. No chance of putting it back on.
And they were pretty much like a cripple the rest of their life.
Right, and there's a lot
And
of
that's
guys,
the way
if you just got shot in the leg, odds are they're cutting your leg off.
Right. Back then they did. They did a lot of amputations then. There's some hoods.
You know, unless, you know, you had a clean shot, meaning that the projectile went completely through you, or it was easy to, you know, remove.
Yeah, a lot
but
of them.
gangrene.
Right, a lot of them had amputations. A lot of them did. And you'll see that. You've heard about that. I know a lot of people have heard about that.
And you know, I'm just curious of any of the young people that might be checking out this video. Before I mention the word gangrene, have you ever heard of it? And the only reason that I'm asking this is because it's one of those illnesses that through the good of man, we eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like polio, you know, because polio was the very last illness that they ever cured.
Oh. But that makes me wonder too, though, why?
Well,
with all the medical advancements, why is that the last one that...
Well, the number one reason that was the last one that they cured is because companies made so much money treating the symptoms that curing you, you know, now curing someone is just not heard of.
See, right here, here's a good example. It says Narcissus Jane, wife of Charles Newman. And here you have Charles Newman. So that was one of the widows, and that was one of... Here's an unknown soldier to the Confederate Army. But that shows you where, you know, the widows and the wives lived here too, were buried here beside their husbands.
I think that's perfect.
That was just marked Elizabeth, wife of Private Frederick Gordon.
I mean, I guess since you're
John
a military
Whaley.
person, I mean, hell, I want to be buried by you wherever they put you.
Unknown soldiers. Mary Miranda.
Wow.
There's a lot back here. Martha, right here. Wife of...
Yeah, I'm noticing a lot of these women outlived their husbands.
Well, yeah, there was 5 widows left when they closed it in 1936, and they moved them to Montgomery. Wife of Oscar Cook.
It's a shame that they had to move them, but by the time they moved those ladies,
Yes.
they were very, very old.
Right, yes.
You know,
They were in their 80s and 90s.
I almost wish, you know, somebody would have been nice enough to say, you know, let these 5 ladies just live the rest of their life here. That would have been the
Well,
right
they
thing to
were,
do.
you know, but then they were turning it into a park. So they moved into Montgomery to the veterans' homes there. And there was one named Winnie, wife of James Maddox.
This is a really
Wow.
pretty cemetery.
It is a beautiful cemetery.
I love the military cemeteries though because they are so uniform.
Yeah, and orderly. Very orderly. Wow, there was a lot of young people in here too.
But I love looking at the age of some of these people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm convinced these folks lived such a long time because of the way they ate.
A lot of them, there's a couple out here that are 107, 104, 105 years old. See? Age 80 years.
Artillery.
So he dealt with artillery.
You know, that's funny though. That's funny. Notice it says light artillery.
Yes. So that's just
In the
gunfire and stuff.
In the 1860s, there was no such thing as light artillery.
So they all used guns and
Oh,
cannons
that
and...
stuff weighed a ton to carry and move. The thing is they didn't have aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
So everything was made out of steel, pig iron.
That's when they had all the ironworks things going around here with the furnaces, the
Right.
Jenny furnaces, because they were using that heavy iron to make weapons and cannons and things like that.
Right, aluminium wasn't brought in, and I said that just to annoy everybody, but aluminum, you know, that's really a fairly new metal that we use. You know, like for airplanes, you know, you use the 6061 grade because it's so light.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in aluminum, a lot of folks don't know, aluminum comes in different grades. But pig iron came in 1 grade, heavy. Let's talk about Jefferson Falkner here.
This is Jefferson Manley Falkner.
Yes, this is Jefferson Manley Falkner. But before we can talk about Jefferson Manley Falkner, we got to tell you about his dad. You know, and I hope that I am so fortunate that 100 years after I've died, before somebody can mention me, they have to tell a little bit about my dad.
Mm-hmm.
So Jefferson Falkner was the dad's name. And He was a reverend. I just found that out. I didn't know he was a reverend before the war, but now I found that out he was. So he was a reverend before the war, and he was also an attorney. He did a lot of things. He was in public office. This guy was really about the people.
Mm-hmm.
So the Civil War breaks out, and he goes and he forms a regiment on his own, calls himself captain.
Mm-hmm.
He was not a captain. He was in the military. He was nothing in the military. But he goes out and he starts calling himself Colonel Falkner.
Mm-hmm.
And he pulls this Mississippi cavalry together. And they go marching in. Eventually they became part of I believe it was the 2nd Alabama.
Right.
So they became part of the 2nd Alabama. And he was actually upgraded to Lieutenant Colonel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 2 years into the war, Falkner's son, Manly Falkner, he's in school, and he leaves school right at 18. He starts at 16. He starts college at 16. At 18, he leaves school, and he joins another regiment as a private. For 4 years, Jefferson Falkner worked and worked and worked and built himself up to where he was a captain.
Mm-hmm.
What it says right
Yeah, I'm gonna take a picture of that. 1 second.
here, well, it doesn't say captain on here, but he was. Take my word for it, he was a captain. He worked his way up to be a captain.
Officer in the Confederate Army.
Now, after the war was over, he was one of the lucky people that he survived the war. So he decided, well, you know, I'm going to go and I'm going to do my thing. And he did a whole lot in public office, but behind the scenes. Like, rather than being the mayor, he would work for the mayor in one of those type offices. And Alabama, most of the macadam roads we have from in those days, he started those projects. He got Alabama transportation up and running. So, after all of this, he's getting a little older. So around 1901, he already owned this land.
Mm-hmm.
He donated this land. He gave all of this as a great tribute.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a dad that on his own realizes, hey, there is a problem. And whether you agree or disagree with what either side of the Civil War did, it took brave men to stand up and make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And it took brave women to stand up and support their men for making that decision.
Right.
Because battles were not won by men alone.
Mm-mm.
You know, they always show in all these documentaries and everything, they always just want to show you the guys. But the women are there. They're helping with the wounded, they're helping with the cooking. Yeah, they didn't have the major fighting roles. And you know,
But still, support roles are important. And the men couldn't have survived without it.
more important. And the South had supplies cut off. They were freezing, they were cold. Lee had a brain fart somewhere, which if he didn't, we wouldn't have the country we have right now. So, I mean, and if we all look at it at the end of things, everything worked out, I guess, it worked out okay.
The way it was supposed to.
It worked out the way it was supposed to. But we just thought that this guy had such an interesting story
Yeah.
that rather than going to a battlefield for this episode, we wanted to bring you out here, share Jefferson Manly Falkner with you, and hopefully we can find some other gentlemen like this. And if you know of any, comment below, let us know, and we're going to go and visit them too. So, until the next video, you guys have it easy.
Let's put it over some
Okay.
to you where it's at.
No.